Okay, welcome to my presentation on a step-by-step guide to achieve an amazing fat loss result. So there's a lot of conflicting, confusing information out there on how to lose fat effectively, which obviously then leads to a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment, and a lot of wasted time, money, and energy. So what I'm going to do today, my aim, is to outline the steps to help you achieve the results you always wanted and to clear up anything that may have been confusing. We're going to cover basics of fat loss, finding the right approach for you to be able to sustain and be consistent long term. All you need to know about calories, whether to track or not, habit change, what to focus on and what to let go out of all the information you've heard. Bit about motivation, the psychology around it, and then putting it all together to construct a plan that you can stick to forever until you achieve results and then maintain that thereafter. So let's just look at the quick basis of fat loss. Now this is not going to be a presentation on science or anything confusing, but obviously we need to know the basis of fat loss. That stops you being ripped off, being scammed by people selling you drinks, because you actually know that's not how fat loss works. When we consume less calories, taking in than we burn, that's gonna lead to fat loss. So that will lead to a loss of body weight. Okay, your weight going down. Calories in, look, you've heard this before. Calories in are basically anything we consume with food or drink. It's the only things that contain calories. Calories out, so the calories that we're burning can be done by multiple things. It can be done through exercise, through movement. My metabolism, my body's constantly burning different rates of energy or calories. And when we take in less than we burn, we achieve what's known as a calorie deficit, and that results in fat loss. So if somebody is consuming more calories than they're burning, they can have any shake or silly drink that you probably see advertised. They're not going to lose fat. It's physiologically impossible. Okay. Okay, but first, Sean, what the hell are calories? Okay, because we probably associated like calories and people looking at food labels with a bit, so like, oh, that's too much. Like, you shouldn't need to do that. It's a bit unhealthy. Um, but to break it down really simple, calories are basic units of energy. All food and drink contains calories. It was just a term made up as a way to measure the energy in food by how much it would burn always. But what I just want you to remember is food and drink contain calories. Some contain more, some contain less. We need to understand that, obviously, when we go back to the equation above, when we're looking at calories in, because we need to try to estimate how much we're taking in to be able to try and manipulate that equation for us to lose fat, and we'll put it all together in the future. So how do I know how many calories I'm eating? Like, am I supposed to guess it? The easiest way now, and it's probably one of the benefits of living today's world, is we have a lot of technology that allows us to assess how many calories we're eating, rather than maybe before you would have to go into Google and type it, or now it's pretty easy. There's simple calorie counting apps you've probably heard of. I'm going to assume you've heard of MyFitnessPal, where, for example, if you're not sure how many calories something is, you will type it in and it will give you an estimate of how many calories that's in. If you want to be more precise with that, you may actually weigh the food out and then track it to get more of a specific reading. Okay. Again, all this will make sense later. So how many calories do I need to lose fat? So you've probably seen lots of different calorie calculators out there, and where you type your body weight and your height, etc. in. I like to keep it very simple, and I'm going to tell you why after as well. The simple formula I like to use is body weight in pounds. So if you go off kilos like we do over here in Australia, multiply your weight in kilos by 2.2. Okay. Then you will multiply that number by 10 if you're inactive, or 12 if you're active. Again, keeping it very simple. I know there's lots. Let's let's say inactive is less than 10,000 steps a day. Let's say active is more than 10,000 steps a day. Okay. So, for example, if someone who's 80 kilos who does more than 10,000 steps a day, class as active, we will get that number into pounds. We multiply that by 12, and that number, 2,112 calories per day, that will be the amount they need to eat without going over to lose fat. So that is the number, that is your calorie deficit number. A lot of people look at these calculators and they're not sure if that's the number they need to eat or they need to take calories off that. If we eat to that number without going over, obviously, we will lose fat. Okay. Now, the number at the start that we get, it's kind of just a guesstimate number. So what I would do with someone is I would get, let's go back. I would get the weight starting off, because weight's going to be one of the biggest predictors of if you're losing fat a lot in most cases. Now, I know a lot of people may have a certain relationship with the scales, but we will hopefully get over that, and I'll show you why later in the presentation. If someone's in a calorie deficit, the majority of the time their body weight will go down. Now, it might go down linearly like every day, but it will get below the lowest point. So if I'm starting with someone, I'll get the weight. I'll also get the pictures and measurements as well. I will start them on a certain number, so for example this, and then we will basically just monitor it for 2 to 3 weeks, because we were just trying to see, is that an accurate number for that person to lose fat. So if they lose weight, they lose fat on that number, the body weight goes down, perfect. We can just kind of keep going the way we're going and stay on that number until we need to adjust. Or if I give somebody that and the body weight doesn't go down, okay, well maybe I might need to lower it a little bit. So I might lower by 100 or 200 calories a day, monitor that for a week, and then drop it down by 100 again. Go 100 calories is usually easier, because we don't want to go too much starting off. So if somebody doesn't lose weight after 2-3 weeks on this, we may lower their calories, see what the body weight does. If it goes down, perfect, stick on that number. If it still doesn't go down and your measurements don't go down, obviously as well, we're comparing both, you may need to go down again until you get to the point of losing. But don't get too obsessed, what I'm saying is, with the calculators, because they're just giving us a number that we can start off with, and then we can adjust from there. It's only a number you will start for the first 2 to 3 weeks. Now, within that calorie number, surely, Sean, you can't eat bad food and junk food and still lose weight. Because a lot of people, when they're going out with the aim of losing fat, they'll go eat only kind of quote unquote healthy food, which is great. But the problem is, it's definitely not a problem to eat healthy food. The problem is people have association that if they eat quote unquote bad food, they won't lose weight for some inherent reason, the sugar content or whatever it is, and will stop them losing it. And that is just not correct. And there was actually a study on that where someone, Professor Markov, he lost 27 pounds 10 weeks eating only junk food. Okay, because the premise was he was still in a calorie deficit. So the amount of energy those junk food contained still didn't go over the number he needed. So he burnt more than he took in, or he took in less than he burnt. Okay, what's the premise? So that's what we kind of need to remember. There's a lot of people talking about sugar and if you eat too much sugar, you won't lose fat. And that's simply not the case at all. It comes down to the amount of energy. Obviously, you may say, Sean, you need to eat healthy food. Yes, for optimal health? Well, actually, in this study, professor, he lost body weight, he lost body fat, and in doing so, all of his markers of health, because he measured his bloods before and after, all his markers of his health markers in his bloods got better simply by losing weight. Because a lot of people need to understand that if you lose weight, if you're overweight and you lose weight, you're out of shape, you lose weight, your body is then going to be in a better position all around health. I know that sounds crazy because you're eating junk food, but the fact that by you simply losing weight, Professor, your and Professor's cholesterol improved, his insulin improved, his blood sugar improved, his hemoglobin A1C improved, all the markers of like cardiovascular disease, health, how your body processes sugar, crazy enough, they all improve simply because he lost fat, lost weight, his body's improved. So what I want you to try to get your head around is we will try to create a plan where you will obviously eat mostly healthy food, but you can still fit these foods in. If it allows you to lose weight, that's going to leave you in a better position versus trying to cut out all processed food and failing over and over and again, because it's not as optimal. Okay, so that's something to get your head around. And we will try to take the guilt and shame away from eating these foods, because if we eat a little bit of these foods, and that allows us to stay consistent to our plan for a long period of time, that we lose weight, our overall health will improve even by eating these foods. Okay, had to repeat that a few times, but again, it's just something people struggle with, and 100% I obviously know why. Now, weight loss versus fat loss. Obviously, I've been talking about how you need to lose weight. Your weight will go down on the scales, but there is a differentiation to make between weight loss and versus fat loss. Traditional weight loss, that's it. That is, if you watch The Biggest Loser, where they're constantly berating them to lose weight, and the scales, they're making sure it goes down by big jumps. Well, the problem with weight loss is it doesn't differentiate between fat loss and muscle loss. We see this in the show, and for most, like what are those weight loss companies, Slimming World and stuff like that, they don't place an emphasis on the thing I'm going to be talking about. Okay, the goal should be to lose fat with maintaining as much muscle mass as possible. So when you hear people say I want to lose fat and tone up, that's what fat loss should be. Okay, weight loss, if someone loses weight but they don't do some key ingredients to make sure they're not losing muscle, what they're going to end up in is kind of like the same. If you think of an out of shape person, they're going to look the same but just at a smaller size, versus if we get an out of shape person and we get that person to lose fat and tone up, be defined, all those nice sexy looking markers. I always make the analogy that if you get like a sumo wrestling outfit and you simply just pop it, that's what a lot of people are going to look like if they don't focus on muscle retention, don't focus on toning up, because muscle is the thing underneath the skin that keeps it tight. So ideally we want to lose the fat around it, keep the muscle there, and that will keep the skin tight. So we avoid too much saggy skin, loose skin, obviously depending on how much somebody has to lose, but that will be protective against that. It will also be protective. Didn't have it in there. It will also be protective in the fact that the more muscle mass we have, the higher our metabolism is going to be, because muscle burns calories. So think of an engine in a car. The bigger engine we have in a car, the more fuel it's going to require. So the more muscle mass we have, the more basic calories we can eat, in a sense. So if two people lose the same amount of weight, one person loses more muscle, they are going to have to eat less food than the person who has maintained more muscle. Obviously, that's a good way, and it's a good consequence, positive consequence that we want to try to get. As we said, visually, you're going to look better, defined, toned, sexy, all the stuff that people want. And we will also look at strength. There's a big study that depicted the amount of muscle mass you have to your longevity. Okay, so we want it for longevity reasons. We want it for strength reasons. I once worked at a gym back in Dublin, and there was a lady who had lost a large amount of weight, but because she wasn't focused on two main ingredients, which I'm going to talk about, which you've probably seen because I skipped forward a second ago. She came in and she had basically lost so much muscle that she struggled to walk up the stairs. She had no strength, which again is going to affect your day-to-day movement and quality of life. So again, fat loss, weight loss is achieved by a calorie deficit, which is the thing what we want. But then we want to focus on two other things. We'll come back to that. Two key ingredients that we will look for when maintaining muscle while losing the fat around it. And that is weight training and getting sufficient protein in. Now let's take a closer look at protein. We talked before about when we're in a calorie deficit, what basically is happening is we're not giving our body enough energy. So it obviously has to break down fat to be able to use for energy. But what also can happen is because we aren't given enough energy and muscle uses calories, your body kind of says, well, to be a bit more efficient here, let's just break down this muscle mass and use it for other things. Use it to break up, because muscle is made up of amino acids, which is what's in protein. So if we don't give it enough energy and especially enough protein, our body will break down that muscle and use for other things. Because protein is used for, people think protein, they think muscle straight away. Well, protein's used for your immune system, it's used to detox, it's used to like repair cells, your hair, skin, nails, all these essential things. Down the line is your muscle. So if we're not eating enough protein and we're in a calorie deficit and your body needs protein to be able to use it for repair and immune system detoxification, etc., well, your body will just break down that muscle mass to use for those more important things in regards to looking at survival. How much protein do I need? Okay, around 2 grams per kilo of body weight. So for example, an 80 kilo person will require 160 grams per day. If you're not really familiar with it at the moment, you've never tracked food, that's no problem at all. What you can do is you can just get familiar with what is a normal standard protein for you. So for example, one chicken breast will be around 30 grams of protein. Okay, so if it's an 80 kilo person and they're eating
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, Siri. So if it's an 80 kilo person and you're eating 3 times a day, okay, we kind of need a sufficient amount of protein in each one, a little over 50 grams per meal, 53 grams per meal. So it will be maybe 1.5, nearly 2 chicken breasts if we're looking at 3 meals. Well, also we can do a nice, convenient, and cheaper way is protein powder. Again, not telling everyone to get protein, but if they struggle with getting that amount in through eating it, it could be an option in the future. For a scoop of protein is around 30 grams. Protein is pretty cost effective, because if you think of how many scoops you get in a tub of protein for the amount it is, versus how much a chicken breast is for the same amount of protein, it's kind of cost effective as well. Now, when we look at weight training, the other main component of maintaining muscle is weight training as well, because obviously, as we said, if we're not giving our body enough energy, and muscle is kind of costly in regards using up precious calories that we may need, your body's going to break that down and use for other processes, use for energy. So what we need to do is force it to hold on to that muscle mass. We will do this by weight training, because obviously if we put stress on our muscles, it's going to, we're basically telling our body, keep building this muscle, keep preparing this muscle stronger, or keep preparing it the same because we need it, because this fella keeps going in to the gym 3 days a week and he keeps putting big stress on our muscle, and if we don't repair and get stronger, we're going to get injured because there's so much stress. Now, for the majority, 3 full body sessions per week is adequate in regards to muscle maintenance. And again, think of these sessions, we're not going in to necessarily burn a lot of calories, which is like traditional weight loss thinking. We're going in to make sure to maintain that sexy muscle tone. And then nutrition and subsequent movement, which we'll talk about, will be the way we are taking in less or burning more, creating a calorie deficit. If we're training 3 days a week, on average, 12 to 15 sets per week per main muscle group is sufficient. For example, if you think of like your chest, 12 to 15 sets could be 4 or 5 sets per day. If we do like a push-up or a chest press or a bench press. If we look at the quads, the front of our legs, again, the same thing, 4 or 5 sets per day, 3 days a week. So example could be some squats one day, some lunges, and then some leg press, whatever it is. The more beginner someone is actually, the less sets they will need. So it could be even less than this. It could be even 9 sets per week. So you might just go in and do 3 sets of leg press, 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of lunges, whatever it is you can do for that muscle, for that main muscle group, and repeat for our back, for the back of our legs, our glutes, hamstrings, lower back. So if we look at how to program a session, and again, trying to keep it as simple as possible because this can get overly confused. Obviously, when it comes to exercise, make sure you consult someone and try to get an expert in that field if needed, especially if you have injuries or a bit more complex cases. I always advise getting some kind of assessment first to actually prescribe the particular exercises you can do. But there'll be different variations again depending on you. So this is just an example. Don't copy it. Try to get something more specific for your body. So example. So we want each session, we want to get some kind of, if we're looking at a quad squat movement, that's going to hit the front of our legs. In regards to chest, some kind of push movement. Okay. Vertical and horizontal. For our back, our upper back, that is, our lats, we want some kind of pull movement. Again, vertical and horizontal. For our glutes and hamstrings, we want some kind of hip hinge. So when I talk about a hip hinge, think of someone bending your hips and standing back up like a deadlift or a back extension or a Romanian deadlift. And then some kind of core exercise to hit your abs as well. So if we look at a push movement, a squat movement, it could be a dumbbell squat, 8 to 12 reps, 3 or 4 sets, again depending on if you're beginner, intermediate, advanced. Beginners need less, intermediate, advanced people may need a little bit more. Push movement could be a push-up or a chest press. The next exercise could be a seated row for your back, or a TRX row. That is a pull movement. Our hip hinge movement will be a back extension or a glute raise. Again, these are kind of less risk to reward exercises. Deadlifts and barbell squats and stuff are more in an advanced range. So it's best to start on these exercises first that help you isolate those muscles a bit better. And then our core movement may just be a plank. 40 to 5 to 90 seconds in between if needed. To keep that simple, I'll give you an example. Okay, what about cardio? Because people before in traditional weight loss, we said they go in, they hop on a machine, they go, I'm going to try to burn this amount of calories. What I prefer for most people and think is more sustainable is just focusing on burning calories outside the gym. Yes, that is possible. And that is basically referred to as NEAT, okay? Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. There won't be many science words in there, but it's good just to be familiar with if you hear people talk about it. And basically, NEAT refers to all the movement we do outside the gym. It could be gardening. It could be walking around. It could be um, cooking, walking, as I said, cleaning the house, whatever you do. And so obviously in these things, we're still burning calories. So for most people, after they get the 3 weight sessions in, instead of spending their whole life in the gym, what we can do is simply get that person to do more stuff during the day and move more, and that will have the same effect of burning calories as if they're in the gym without having to spend their life in the gym. And that's what you hear of like the 10,000 step rule, people looking at Fitbits, because it's a great way to measure activity to make sure we're doing enough. So again, we don't have to spend our life on a treadmill to be able to burn calories. And it also puts in perspective that when people think of a workout before, when they look at burning calories, they may go, right, I'm going to do this class, it's going to burn 300 calories, brilliant. But then they're not looking at the rest of what they're doing the day. So they're only focusing on that 1% of the day. And in fact, what they've seen now is looking at the activity you do in the overall day is a better thing, because someone may do 10,000 steps and that may equate to 2 up to 3 times the amount of calories you will burn in a gym session. Okay, that's crazy. So we want to look at the whole day, okay, rather than one instance of how many calories are burning in that. So for example, an example training week I'm gonna have a client do is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The resistance training, or resistance could be your body weight as well. That's why I had it in there, because obviously during writing this, the gyms were closed and people are doing body weight training. Any type of resistance that counts, weight training, etc. They may do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, give them a day in between. Instead of going to the gym on the other days, again, especially if someone doesn't like the gym, I'm not saying to do or not to, it's just up to your personal preference. But for most people, they probably have responsibilities, probably have family, they probably can't afford to spend every day in the gym. So the days in between, or every day, we may just focus on also hitting a neat goal, a step goal. The 10,000 step rule, I constantly ask Sean, I can't hit 10,000 steps, no problem. That rule, I think it actually came into play by a Fitbit company, unbelievable marketing, because they're trying to obviously get people to do more steps. The study I've heard of is they study people that get less than 8,000 steps a day and get people that get more than 8,000 steps a day. I think that was the original advice. And they've seen people that get more than 8,000 steps just have better health markers, their appetite regulation is better because they're moving more. So what I would say is just look at how many steps you're getting at the moment. It's a good gauge. You don't have to get a Fitbit. Most iPhones have it in the health app. And just see where you're at currently. Okay? And then you can slowly bump it up if you need to. Or in some cases, if you kind of hit your maximum amount of steps you can do, just don't let it drop below that. You're just looking for some kind of variable, because when we go back to the start, we look at calories in as the amount of food we're eating, which we can track that. And we're also looking at calories out, which is the amount of calories we're burning. So we kind of need both variables. We need a good grasp of what's happening on both parts to be able to adjust. Because if we know how many calories we're taking in and how many calories we're taking out, for example, someone's weight doesn't move. Instead of dropping the calories in bit, what we can do, we can actually burn more calories by moving more, and that will put that person into a calorie deficit as well and lose weight. So for a lot of people, I find they may be a bit better just to actually focus on getting more activity than being stricter with the nutrition. Okay, because people like to eat more, so you might as well move more as well to be able to do that. Now, it couldn't be that easy, okay? This is taking me 10 hours. You said this would be an easy project. Never said it would be easy. I said it was simple. Simple doesn't mean it's easy. Okay, and that's what we're talking about when it comes to fat loss, because I've explained the theory of fat loss and the science, and then that only leads to people going, well, I must be a very shit person because I can't even achieve a calorie deficit. And it's not like that at all. It's simple in theory, hard in application. because of a number of reasons. Okay, because if we basically live in an environment that's set up for us to be obese, there's food everywhere combined with low activity. And when we look at the types of food around, they're specifically very rewarding foods. When we go back to the processed foods, they're very rewarding foods in the fact that they spike dopamine, and we have never evolved with foods that give us such a pleasurable response. And it hits the same reward centers as drugs, gambling, all those other quote unquote addictive things that gets us in the habit of eating them. We can also combine that when we live in such a stressful world, which I'm going to talk about after, and by eating pleasurable food, actually can decrease the stress and make us feel temporarily better. And then we can also combine that with such inactivity, in the fact that we're driving everywhere, we're not getting enough steps in, we're not like living like our ancestors in regards to being on our feet most of the day and moving around. So it's a kind of concoction for to make it very hard. Now, to lose fat, we want to tailor the right approach for us. Too many people pick up an approach to do. I'm going to pick this diet. I'm going to pick this plan. I'm going to pick this plan. It's pointless. It's like going into you're buying a nice suit or a dress for the ladies, and you go in, you don't even get it measured, you don't get it tailored, you don't even try it on. All you do is you just go, I'm going to pick that one. You could be an extra large, and now you just pick this small without even trying it on, okay? And people get surprised then that the thing doesn't work for them. How is somebody going to work for you when you haven't tailored it to you, your lifestyle, everything? It's like going in and saying to get a prescription, and the doctor doesn't even ask, well, what's wrong with you? Just gives you a random prescription. How are they going to work? So I want you to get used to that. We have the guideline of a calorie deficit, but what we're trying to do is tailor to that person's life so they can be more successful. How do we do that? Basically, we look at how many meals does that person like to eat. Do they like to? These are some examples. Do they like to have more food on the weekends? Do they like to eat more food at night? We want to tailor the plan to suit you and your lifestyle rather than the other way around. Rather than picking a plan that makes it hard for you to carry out, we want to make it easy for you to carry out. For example, if you have a family, you're most likely going to eat dinner with them. So it's not going to make sense if I give you a very strict plan where you can't eat that much food at dinner. What if I gave you a plan and we constructed a plan together that allowed you to be very flexible with your food at night by being a little bit stricter during the day? What if you always go out, you're a very social person, you always go out on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Well, instead of me being strict and say, you can't go out, you can't drink, what if I got a plan to be a little bit less calories kind of during the week, Monday to Thursday, that allowed you to eat and drink some more calories Friday, Saturday, Sunday? It all averages out at a calorie target and you lose weight. That's going to be a better approach for you to be able to carry out long term. What if I gave you a food plan? I said you had to eat 6 times a day, but you're in meetings and you only prefer to eat twice a day. Well, how about I actually ask you these questions first, and then we can construct a plan together. Again, we're trying to achieve that calorie deficit, but how we do so, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Going forward, be true to like when you're tailoring your approach. If you look at foods, I'll always ask someone, what foods are they not willing to give up? Because when we construct a plan, we want one to be able to last forever. So if I can include foods that you enjoy and you learn to eat these foods in quote unquote moderation, I don't really like the term, but quote unquote moderation, have a little bit each day, you're more likely to carry out that plan forever. If you like chocolate, and I give you a little bit of chocolate every day in your plan, you probably won't crave a chocolate binge at the end of the week because you don't feel mentally restricted. You can already eat these foods. If you always like drinks, every Friday, again, you want to try account for these drinks and fit them into your plan to achieve a calorie deficit. But then again, you don't feel like you're being deprived of pleasure because you're still having social occasions, you're still having fun, and again, you're going to be more consistent to your plan. What food can you not eat and control? It's a good question. What foods do you tend to binge on? Again, people will probably give the vague answer will go chocolate. Well, it's not really chocolate because you probably don't binge on 90% chocolate. It's probably a certain brand, certain texture, certain flavor. If there's certain foods you absolutely cannot eat and control at all, and the one bit of chocolate leads to others, there may need to be a stage where that has identified, and we may need to stay slightly away from those foods for the time being anyway. So, for example, for me, it may be like Tim Tams or Lindt chocolate. Can't really have one of those, but I may have a slightly darker bit of chocolate, and um, I feel good after that, and I don't really feel deprived. That still makes up for it. What have you tried before and what hasn't worked? It's always ask people before I work them because we want to be able to nail down what hasn't worked. Have you gone too strict? Have you cut out all the stuff you enjoy? Have you dieted too hard and you can't sustain it? Ask yourself these little questions as well. So, for example, a typical day for an office worker may look like someone may be just too busy in the morning. They just might drink a coffee and water, coffee, tea, and they may save those calories for more social events, the weekends, dinners, business lunches, and business dinners, family dinners. So you've heard of kind of the approach of intermittent fasting. Okay, we're just taking the aspects of that work, and if we look at our calories, like the amount we can spend each day, we're just picking the points that we can spend those calories on. Um, if you predict you're going to go out tonight and your calorie deficit is 2,000 calories, and you know you're going to go out and you're going to have a large pizza, you're going to have a few beers, that may be a whole 2,000 calories. So we have a few options. We may just fast the whole day and wait for those calories. Um, we want to see how to construct a plan around our social events rather than just saying I'm not going to, because it's probably not viable. Again, these are getting into more specifics. Trial and error. Okay, so we've tried something. Again, this is the way we may look at what have you done in the past. Tried skipping breakfast, but you just keep binging out at lunch on croissants and cakes and all the delicious stuff around you. Okay, well maybe that might work for you. Do you know what? Let's try something else. Maybe have like a pre-planned snack ready for lunch, or maybe try have a bigger breakfast, or maybe try something. When people slip up, what you need to think about, and think of the same in business, where you're just thinking about your strategy. Did that work? No. Okay, why? Let me try something else. Don't think, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I'm so shit. No, that just hasn't worked for you. So you're slowly just nailing down what has worked. Is tracking my calories the only way? Do I need to sit my life on a tracking on a calorie app or looking at labels? No. Calories count because it's the only way, like calorie deficit is the only way you're going to achieve fat loss. But you don't always have to count them. Because some people may just start to eat a bit better, whole foods. Someone was eating really shit food 3 times a day, and they simply start to eat a little bit more quote unquote healthier whole foods. It's very hard. It's harder to overeat on those whole foods. So, in a sense, a lot of time they're simply putting themselves in a calorie deficit. Processed food, like I said before, are very rewarding. They hit the same dopaminergic reward part of our brain as any addictive substances, and more dopamine release, that becomes more ingrained in a habit. Um, when we also eat these foods, it's kind of a mechanism that when dopamine is released when we eat these very rewarding foods that contain lots of calories and sugar and fat together, it overrides our appetite and actually makes it easier to overeat. These are what's called hyperpalatable foods. Again, if we think of like really tasty chocolates and stuff you can't control yourself on, they're hitting like our brain's preferences in regards to food, releasing a lot of dopamine, and that overrides your appetite. It's why, quote unquote, your dessert stomach. You may not be hungry, but then you see this very high calorie food, it's very pleasurable, and suddenly you can eat it. Okay, it's kind of survival mechanism that when we could get our hands, they've hypothesized on very high calorie food, and we are going to make room for that. Even if we do store fat that was saved for a rainy day. So if we start to eat more whole foods that basically regulate this and they don't release a lot of dopamine, they're not very hyperpalatable. It's very hard to overeat and binge out on chicken and salad. So these foods naturally regulate our hunger better and stop us overeating. So that will result in us getting a calorie deficit. Again, chicken or egg, you need to track calories. First, eat better. You can kind of do both. For the people that didn't get that, I'm going to give you another look. Chicken and egg. Who came first? Ha ha ha. Okay. Anyway. So I've had clients do both. I've had clients simply start to increase the whole foods in their diet. That results in them eating less. They lose weight. However, there is definitely time, and I think tracking food is, like Luke Tulloch referred on my podcast, it's a modern day skill that we need to know, because there's so much foods that can put us off and throw us off when we're not aware of how many calories are in those foods. So tracking calories, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's a modern day skill, okay, to be able to maintain our health. So someone could eat better, lose weight, then get to a stage where they start to track calories, because they may want to have to add certain foods back in that they enjoy. And they need to be aware of how many calories are in these foods. A big problem we see when people went low carb. They went low carb, they cut out, they lost weight. But when they start to eat like more carbohydrate based foods, they weren't aware of how many calories in them. So then start to binge out on a whole lot of calories and gain the weight back. Well, if we go through an education phase after we do that, and then that means we can sustain those results longer. Losing weight, by and large, pretty easy, but being able to sustain that is the hard of it. Or I've had clients track calories, find a system that works for them, find foods that they can eat, fit into the calories, lose weight, and then as they go, they will naturally start to add in more healthier foods. For example, someone may start to eat cereal for breakfast. Let's say one of their meals is cereal. They start off, they track the amount of calories in the cereal. They go, oh, that's a lot. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have the same cereal, but I'm going to have less of it. Okay, I'm controlling the calories first. Then as they go, they may start to increase the nutrients within that cereal. For example, they may then go to like Weetabix, and then they may go to porridge. Okay, porridge obviously being a whole food, oats are brilliant. So when we get the quantity in control, someone then may along the way start to increase the quality of those foods. Start to eat more fruits, start to eat more vegetables within those calories. And again, that will lead to them sustaining those results, because if someone is in a calorie deficit, like the professor at the start, that's great in regards to getting results and getting your body healthy for a certain time. But if you keep doing that, it's not healthy, because then you're going to get nutrient deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies. It's not going to be as full when we start to transition, tracking calories all the way to start eating better. That's another cycle. So I've had clients do both. Measuring progress. Like I talked about at the start, we will use weight as an indicator. We will also use measurements, waist and hip. And we will also use pictures. Now, to weigh or not to weigh. You know, people always get these questions, oh, Sean, I don't like weighing in. I have a bad relationship with the scales. I'm going to break them. Well, those who weighed themselves, this is a study on weighing, those who weighed themselves daily lost 10 pounds, while those who weighed themselves monthly gained 2.2 pounds. So we want to look and say, okay, it's probably like checking your bank account on a daily basis. If you're trying to save, it's going to keep you in check a little bit more. It keeps you accountable. I find that a lot of people, if they're not measuring any type of progress, they may fall off the wagon a bit and they may not catch themselves in time, and that just escalates out of control. So suppose it's definitely individual, But I think, in my opinion, if someone can use the scales properly, um, it keeps them in track and it's a good measure of progress. Okay, but quote unquote, use them properly, which is what we'll see. Okay, so we want to look and we want to go weight loss, fat loss is not linear. Okay, read that again. When we think of someone losing weight, we probably think of them weighing in the first day and then going all the way down every day, every day. It doesn't happen like that. Okay, as we can see here, this example, this is a real common one where it will be so much fluctuations that if we probably look at day one, goes down, okay, a few weeks in, but then it goes back up, and then we're nearly back at the start again, and that's where someone may freak out, okay, because we want to say that just because someone has gained weight, it doesn't on the scales, it doesn't mean they have gained fat, okay. Weight gain is due to stress, due to salt, water, carbs, hormones, etc. Someone could have lost fat, but the water fluctuations in the body may cause them to temporarily be a little bit heavier on the scales. That doesn't mean they've gained fat. Okay? So I want to really reiterate that. And that's why kind of daily weighing, getting a trend of where you're at. And what you can do with weight is you can use weekly averages, because it will fluctuate within 2-3 kilos sometimes. So you might just get the average that week compared to the average next week, and so on and so on. What I do sometimes is I kind of go, okay, once our lowest weight is getting lower at some point, so once here we dropped, okay, just expect it to go back up again, and then it's going to drop. Now we've hit our newest low, expect it to go back up and fluctuate for a bit. It's going to drop again. It's kind of staying consistent within that. Once you see your drop, stay consistent, expect it to go back up again, and it's going to drop. And again, over time, it will average down. But if you just circle bits of it, if you just focus on that particular week, 2-3 weeks, you'll drive yourself crazy. So that's even Tara here, who was one of my clients, and that she's lost, I think, around 18 kilos over that. It's pretty crazy. Okay, more than one way. Neither is superior. It's more about what works best for the individual. So, like we were talking about before, in regards what comes first, tracking it, just see what works better for you. Sometimes people find it easy to increase food quality and start to eat a bit better, followed by looking at the quantity of calories of their food, where some people find it very hard to eat better food, so they just may need to get the quantity of the quote-unquote bad food in check first, and then over time it starts to increase a bit better quality food. Now, looking at a day, instead of looking at your day as a whole, break it up into small individual habits, because when we look at fat loss and change, what we're essentially looking at is behavioral change. Okay, most people look at all the other stuff, but they don't look at this very important component, and then thus struggle with breaking habits. Because to be able to break and replace habits, you need to understand habits and psychology. Okay, which is ironically what is hardly ever talked about. That's for another day. So when we look at a habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that's hard to give up. And around 50% of a regular day is done at such an automatic level that we don't really notice it. It's so unconscious. So 50% of your day, it's a big chunk of a routine day, which we will need to look at. As I said, the how of the how. In the realm of change of behavior, how to actually change your habits and behavior is not talked about. So here's what you need to know. A habit is basically made up of a trigger, routine, and reward. An easy one to look at is stress. Okay, stress eating in the fact that stress, we have trigger. The routine is eating processed foods. What that does, it increases dopamine, like we talked about before, and makes us feel good. And the reward is then feeling less stressed. So when we're stressed, every time, emotional pain is kind of like physical pain. The fact that if you touch something hot, the immediate thing is to pull away. emotion pains like that, we want to get out of that uncomfortableness straight away. So we will do what we've always done. Here we go. In my nice little diagram. Now, what most people do, they go to lose fat. We always see this with New Year's resolutions, and they go, okay, I'm going to lose fat. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop stress eating. I'm going to stop doing this, stop doing that. You can't go cold turkey in your habits. Why? Because if we look at the habit loop, once done a few times, it's starting like your frontal lobe, and we do it. Eventually, it's kind of stored like a programming in your basal ganglia and other more innate features of our brain. So that's a code together. Okay. So once we feel stressed, if we try to stop doing the habit, it won't happen because we automatically do what's after the stress unconsciously. What we need to do is replace the routine with something else that's more favorable towards fat loss. Because if we look at stress eating, it's obviously not favorable towards fat loss. But if we put something in there that helps us de-stress and is also favorable towards fat loss, well, bang, kill two birds with one stone. Now, obviously, this is unless we can remove the trigger completely, which is hard in most cases. Work stress, family stress. If you think of your triggers, if you can't remove them from your day, well, then you need to find a way of replacing the behavior. For a funny example of this, actually, one of my friends, David, who's out in Australia on like an extended holiday, and he's pretty stressed at home. He used to work project management, so coming to the end of the jobs, they're under a lot of pressure. And his one of his things he would always do when he stresses by his fingernails. Now he's come out here, but he's actually removed the trigger completely because he's kind of on extended holidays, relaxed, he's not working, and so his fingernails are fucking grown. He doesn't even know what to do with them. Doesn't even know how to cut them. Most of us don't have that luxury, so we need to look at replacing the behavior. So when we get the trigger of being stressed, we need to replace it with something else. Could it be train? Could we have a bath? Meditate, watch comedy, ring a friend. We need to think of something that gives us the same reward. What helps you feel less stressed? Can you do that all the time? Okay, let's focus on making that a new habit. Every time you become stressed, you get the trigger of stress, you will do this new routine, and over time that will become automatic. When people look at behavior change, there is the old myth that it takes 21 days to change a behavior. I wish it was that easy. I think we all wish. Actually, it's more like 66 days on average. The study they did, it ranged from 12 days to over a year for just to change one habit. And this becomes like the specification of behavior change. And obviously, the more complex the habit, the longer that would be as well. So we need to be aware of this. And if we go back and replacing that behavior, we need to go, okay, I need to do this for at least 66 days, constantly repetition, until that becomes a new behavior. Now, when we look at fat loss, another thing we also look at is someone goes and I'm going to lose fat. Okay, then they go, I'm going to change my whole fucking life at once. And actually, when we look at behavior change, the science that we say, well, actually changing more than 2 habits at a time, I think it is, increases your chance of failure by 75%, and then the higher the percentage chance of failure. So we can't just overhaul the whole life. What we need to do is pick the lowest hanging fruit, pick the habits that will have the biggest difference in our life, and then slowly pick away from there. So this is the kind of long lasting thing when we look at that. If you're very serious about changing your life, overhauling it will only result in you just going back to the beginning. If you start to pick away your behaviors, eventually when you compare the start to the end, that's an absolute overhaul. But now you just do it automatically. That's all good, Sean, but I wish I had more motivation to keep it going. Okay, let's talk about motivation. Oops. What is the true use for motivation? That is to only get you started. Motivation is an emotional state. It's kind of like being happy. It's just certain chemicals are upregulated at the moments of time to feel a certain way. Tony Robbins says change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So if you got to the lowest point you've ever been, suddenly you are motivated to change. What we want to do is use that motivation to take the first step, which is usually the hardest. But then when motivation drops off, and it will drop off in the first few weeks, because trying to stay motivated all the time, it's like trying to stay happy all the time, it's not going to work. You need to focus on still carrying out these habits, even if you don't feel like it. Okay? And that is basically looking at discipline. Discipline is about carrying out habits and behaviors when you don't feel like them. So over time, you can get to the stage where you're hitting 66 days and they basically become automatic. And then you will do them unconsciously, which is what the goal is. So motivation normally drops off first 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even before. If you look at New Year's resolutions, that's 3 weeks. Problem is, an average takes around 66 days, 10 to 12 weeks to become automatic. So people normally give up right when motivation drops off, and they don't spend long enough in maintaining those habits. And all that needs is you just wasted so much money, so much time, so much effort. So that's what we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of motivation will drop, and we need to focus on being disciplined and carrying the habits whether you feel like, and I always use the example, how many days you go to work when you don't feel like it. You need to have that same mindset when it comes to training, in regards to training, nutrition, etc. This is a non-optional thing. You do not have the option of getting out of this. You have to go. You have to go, and you have to approach it the same way. Probably won't feel like doing it, but I need to do it. After you actually feel, you will feel good after. Again, discipline's about carrying out behaviors, even when you don't feel like it. I don't feel like training, so I'm not going to train. That's what someone says that relies on motivation. I don't feel like training, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay? Just like in the gym, habits require repetition for long enough to then become automatic. Like I've said before, the next time you don't feel motivated to go to the gym or prep your meals or whatever it is, picture yourself ringing your boss and telling them you won't be coming to work for the same reason. I'm not going to come to work today, I don't feel motivated. It's not going to happen. That works for a lot of people using my clients. Okay, how should I use motivation? Another little diagram. I think it looks okay. How should I use motivation? Use motivation to take the first step. If I'm coaching someone, if I have someone in front of them. Motivation is when someone's absolutely ready to change. Okay? But we can use motivation interviewing with people who are not completely ready. This is why if you have a relative or friend that you know needs to lose weight, simply telling them, oh, you need to lose weight doesn't do anything. You actually need to ask them the questions to move along. If someone's in a pre-contemplation change, they've no intention of changing because they're not aware a problem exists. If you can start to ask them the questions and slowly lead them to the point where this is becoming a problem, well, maybe they might move along it where they're contemplating it. Okay, and then when that becomes painful enough, they will move along the line. Okay, it could be a life scare, it could be revelation. I think one of our mentors, Phil Learney, had a client that she just had a revelation one day when she tried to cross her legs and she couldn't cross them because she got too out of shape, and that was hers. Motivation allows you to prioritize the behaviors needed to lead to your goal. Motivation will dip after a few weeks, but you will now focus on discipline instead. This will mean doing things whether you feel like it or not. Don't feel like it, I'm still going to do it. Non-optional. Repeat each habit over and over for an average 66 days. Sorry, I skipped a bit. Yeah, I've trained today. I'm tired, I'm unmotivated. Even though I feel lazy and lethargic, I'm still going to train. Repeat over and over for an average 66 days. And what you might use the calendar where you simply tick off and cross it off each time and you don't break the chain. So not some little tricks you can use in there. Eventually you carry these habits automatically without the need for motivation. You just do them whether you like it or not. You do them automatically. It's just a thing you do. So that's a person moving along the line. If someone's very motivated, they're probably at that preparation stage where they're going to make it happen. For people that you know there's a problem where they don't, they're probably in this stage. stage of change. When someone's motivated, they'll move to the action stage, where they start to actually take action. They might hire me as a coach, join me online, do whatever, change their behaviors. Now, if someone doesn't get to this maintenance stage, they don't spend long enough maintaining those habits, they will relapse back to the start again. Okay? Which is a crazy thing, because people look at fat loss, they think of the goal, but they go, well, once I get to my goal, then I can just stop completely. No. If you had a good plan, it will be so individualized to you, and you've ingrained so much habits that once you get to that goal, if you've done it in the proper way, that will just be a part of your life. So from you at the start to you to now, you're a completely different person in regards to your behaviors and habits, how you think probably as well. But along the way, you've just chipped away at it. It hasn't been one big overhaul. One thing that's missing a lot of people is accountability, because we've said motivation dips after the first few weeks. One way of helping that person over the line, of getting to them stage where it becomes a bit more maintainable and that becomes a bit more automatic, is accountability. And accountability is when performance is measured, performance improves. So when performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. If you think of your job, you have someone to report to and be accountable to. You're going to prioritize those habits, behaviors, and tasks more. If you have a coach to report to that's going to be on your back, it's kind of a reminder. It makes makes a lot of things that can go forgetful, unconscious, conscious again. And you're more likely to prioritize the habits, thus increasing your chance of success. And I just picked out a study, American Society of Training Development did a study on accountability and found that you have a 65% chance of completing a goal if you commit to someone. And if you have a specific accountability appointment with a person you've committed to, you will increase your chance of success by up to 95%, which is massive. Because if you go, oh, Sean rings me twice a week on my online training, I know I need to have these tasks done, that's going to be like a fire up your ass and actually be able to do it. Okay. Anything else? We've looked at calories, okay? We've said that's the thing that determines whether you lose weight or not. Then we've looked at to make sure you get enough protein to get that tight tone physique. If we look at fat and carbs, it can either be high carb, low carb. It doesn't really matter. You can fill it with whatever your preference is. Don't stress too much about that. For most people, 80 to 90% of your results are going to be just here. If you have this mastered, what you can then look at, you can look at if you make sure you're getting sufficient vitamins and minerals, your micronutrients. And that will make sure your health is optimal, your energy, your sleep, you're looking vibrant, all that kind of stuff. So you can get blood tests. You can start to increase, like we said, the amount of veggies and fruits within your diet to make sure you're hitting that. If you have that covered, that's easy. For most optimal, and this may only be a few percent on these two, you can look at when to eat in the meal time. When we looked at muscle tone, maintain the muscle tone, to optimally hold on to whatever muscle you have, it's probably best to give your muscle some kind of protein every 3 to 4 hours. And that's if someone eats 3 times a day, that is probably more optimal than someone eating twice a day in regards to maintaining the muscle. Again, the results may only be minuscule, but if you're going to a very optimal level, that may be a thing. If you trying to eat 3 times a day is getting in the way of you achieving a calorie deficit, well then that's useless, because calorie deficit is the king. So this is the first thing you need to take off. Then this is the next. So make sure you're doing them in order here. Supplements. Okay, so always get asked. You can use protein powders like we said if you need to, but supplements will have no effect if you're not getting a calorie deficit. Okay, so don't worry about anything you see on Dr. Phil or Dr. Ross or Dr. Nick on The Simpsons. Focus on this pyramid and focus on these two to be your main things first. This is where you're going to get all your results. When you find yourself going away and reading Men's Health and seeing all these other fancy things, come back to this and say, if you're not doing this, you will not achieve results. Some other common fat loss questions: is too much protein bad? No, it's not. Unless you have existing kidney issues, there's no reason. Um, Protein. They've even done studies where people have 3 4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight per day, and have no impact. Do you need to eat breakfast again? No, to achieve your fat calorie deficit. But if you're looking at the most optimal way to maintain muscle while you lose fat, you may have something for breakfast, shake or food. But breakfast is not the most important meal of the day, if that's what people are trying to say. Do you want to take protein powder? Again, if you're struggling to hit it, it could be convenient. Will eating at night be stored as fat? Definitely not. If we go back to our calorie deficit, calories, this is the amount of calories over a 24-hour period or even over a week. So you can consume those when you want. It's an old wives' tale. Will eat too many carbs make me fat? Let's go back to this. No, it comes down to calories. We can remember our Professor Markov just eating sugary foods. And he still lost all the weight. Will cutting my calories help even more? It's a common question that if I have 2,000 calorie deficit, and the number I give is kind of just like the number in most equations is like a slight 20% calorie deficit. People think, oh, well, if I do 20, what if I do 50? I'm going to lose more. Well, sometimes going way too low only upregulates your hunger, upregulates your appetite, lowers your energy. So it's going to impact on how long you can actually sustain that, because you're going to get too hungry, you're going to get too tired, too fatigued. And that will actually result in most people binging out because they can't sustain that. Do I need to take supplements? Again, no. If you are going to, it's probably best to get your blood test done to see what type of supplements you can take. Do I need to stop eating sugar? Again, we talked about this. No. Focus on your overall calorie. Try to fit 80% whole foods. Fill some foods in there with stuff you enjoy. Stress, okay? Nearly finishing up. Let's look at stress. Stress has, one of the effects it has is it increases our hunger, okay? And stress can come from a career, not sleeping, not eating properly, financials, all different types of stress that we have in our body. One of the effects it has, it increases our hunger, specifically for very high sugary, high processed foods. And that can increase our overall calorie intake. Now, without someone necessarily tracking the calories, if that person just became quote unquote less stressed or lowered the stress a little bit, that's going to be able to lower the hunger, and that will be able to result in them eating less calories. So it's a very holistic thing we'll look at. Again, people think stress, there's a lot of kind of underlying low levels of stress people face in their life. Could be relationship, financial, not sleeping. The quality of food is a stress in their body. Work stress, deadlines, too much caffeine. Coffee's not bad, but it's a stimulant and it can increase cortisol. And then we look at like high intensity training classes. People go to very high intensity where they get killed by boot camps and all this stuff. And that may be too much for that person at that point in time. Again, increasing that cortisol even more. And once everyone has a different kind of point of which the bathtub, if you look at putting water into a bath, overflows. And when that does, that's a person's stress point. When there's too much water in the tub, when it overflows, you're going to get increased cravings, appetite, hunger, decreased energy and motivation, decreased immune system, increased muscle breakdown. So that harder muscle is going to break down, you're going to lose it. Increased rate of digestive issues and increased rate of failure overall, because all this stuff's like pissing against the wind trying to get results, because it's doing everything the opposite of what we're trying to do. Food environment, what's forgotten reason? Sorry, just going back to this. So if we look at like taking water out, we want to pick activities that will lower cortisol. It could be some deep breathing, meditating, get a hobby, better sleep, better food quality, saunas, stretching, getting outside, getting in nature. If you can name so much stresses in your life, well, I challenge you to name stuff that helps you de-stress. So always think like your health bank account where all these stresses are going in. Well, how are you taking them back out again to make sure you even it up? Food environment, forgotten ingredients. if we look at behavior change, one of the things we're trying to do is to make favorable habits really easy to do and unfavorable habits hard to do. Okay? One thing people forget about is they constantly complain the lack of self-control in regards to food, but then they keep the temptation in front of them. That would just be akin to someone trying to give up booze, but then living in a pub. Okay, look at your environment to see how that's impacting you. And what we're trying to do is construct an environment that makes it easy to carry out the behaviors needed to achieve our goals. So instead of wishing for more self-control, more discipline, how about you take the temptations out of your environment, and that will make it easy to carry on. People think that successful people in terms of fat loss um, are more disciplined. Well, actually, they just control the environment in a way that makes it easy for them. There's less temptation around. So do a food environment audit of your house, of your workplace. If we're looking at making good habits easy to do, well, maybe fill your eyes view with fruit, with veggies, with water. Take the wine, take the processed foods, and make it harder for you to get at. Luke Tulloch even talked about a study where they had two groups. They had people with popcorn, buttery popcorn, apple slices, and they, for one group, they just put the popcorn a few inches in front of them and more at hand's view, and the apples were behind. And they did the opposite for the other group. So the other group, they did the apple slices were easy to get at, and a few inches behind with the popcorn. The group who had whatever food closest, no matter what it was, um, ate that food. So control what's in eyes view. If we look at food environment, we talked about before about how our environment today is kind of set up for us to become obese. Dr. Stefan Guillenet talks a lot about this. And we've probably all experienced it, in the fact that there's something in your house, you might have ice cream, whatever. I'll use ice cream for this example. Say Ben and Jerry's. You're not even hungry, but you still go and get that food. One of the reasons for this, called the cost of food, has been hypothesized that your brain is always thinking in terms of like economics and the fact that it will weigh up the cost of getting a food in regards to calories it's going to get in return. So if we look at like ancestral times, in the fact that if we're in the wild and we had to expend a lot of energy to go and get a food, we needed to make that sure that food was going to give us a big return on that investment. Because if we expended a lot of energy to go and get something, we may die if we're not going to get a lot of calories in return. So that's the kind of way our brain thinks now. So if you're sitting in the fridge over there, has a 500 calorie ice cream, and you don't have to expend much to go and get it, that's going to be kind of a big win by your brain standards. So what can happen is it can increase motivation to go and get that food. That's why you may get more cravings to go and get it. Not a big win would be maybe having to expend a heap of calories to go down the shop and get it. You're going to be less motivated cravings. Again, some people can hold certain foods in their house easy, but what I'm trying to say is if you're struggling with foods that you keep binging on in your house, make them harder to get at in the environment. If that still keep doing it, well, maybe don't keep them in there at all. And on the occasions you have it, you will only buy the particular size of meat that you want. Mindset, looking at fat loss transformations. Again, we're trying to condense years of stuff into a little presentation here, so excuse if it feels a bit rushed. If there's any questions, always email me or contact me after. When we look at mindset for fat loss transformations, kind of look at the psychology and the fact that a typical, basically terms, your thoughts affect your actions and your actions affect your results. So a big thing people have kind of mindset that we can group in terms of fat loss is the all or nothing mindset. Someone sets out trying to lose weight. I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to nail my food. I'm going to do all this absolutely perfect. They have this expectation in their head they're going to be good. Again, this mindset can come from a multitude of reasons. I'm not going to go into it. It's very complex. But if we approach fat loss with an all or nothing mindset, it's going to set us up for failure because it's so inconsistent, and it means when we slip up, we're not going to get any results, so we're going to fall off the wagon. Whereas if we set up with a realistic expectation of results, we're going to be more consistent in our actions and we're going to get results. So a typical all or nothing mentality would be I slipped up, I'll start again on Monday. Had one chocolate, so I may as well have them all. Good versus bad foods, certain foods that you need to eat to lose fat. Processed foods, you can't eat that. I don't have time for the gym today, so I'll go tomorrow or the day after, and I'll be perfect this week or next week if you slip up. This only leads to constant restricted binge, constant failure, because you're just a perfectionist and you're unrealistic in your expectations. I slip up and start again on Monday. Well, if you need to challenge these thoughts and slowly develop one where it's a more realistic expectation. If you lost 10 cents, would you throw away all the money you have? Probably not. I had one chocolate, so I may as well have them all. Well, you haven't ruined your progress. Just account for them in your calories. There's no such thing as bad foods. All foods contain calories. You can eat quote unquote bad foods and still lose weight. Don't have time for the gym. No worries. Get out of perfectionist. Burn some calories at home. Go for a run. Do some push-ups. Get your knee up, like we said. I'll be perfect this week. There's no such thing as perfection. Okay? What you're trying to do is progress. It's cliche, but it's true. Focus on progress rather than perfection. If you do slip up, come back to learning, okay, why did that happen? Change your strategy if needed, and then focus on progression again. Again, this is kind of some of the aspects where I coach people on my own online program. What we're trying to do is setting the right approach for the individual, looking at the lifestyle, the psychology, look at what they've done in the past. We want to start working with the lifestyle rather than against it. Focus on habit change. Okay, people are in the business of changing habits and behaviors, but don't know how to do it. So we will look at like low-hanging fruit and eventually progress and start to overhaul the whole lifestyle in a way where they don't even notice it. I'll say to someone, if I can get you in a position a year from now that I'll get you results and you can maintain them with absolute ease without having to sacrifice any social occasions or a bit of enjoyable, would that be for you? And they'll always reply, yeah, that's what we do. Nailing those habits in place with accountability with online coaching. Again, accountability is a massive ingredient, a missing ingredient that people forget about. Whereas if you have someone report it, you will actively prioritize those behaviors and habits simply because I'm going to be on your back. If I look at my online coaching in regards tracking their food or whatever way and measurement, I can see that. So when they track the food, it's linked up to my app, and I'll check that person's stuff every day to make sure they're doing it, make sure they're ticking off their goals, ticking off their habits, whatever they've set out. Getting someone to the stage of authenticity and then focusing on your next habit, again, picking apart their lifestyle. Looking at our mindset, expectations, we got motivation, mentality, kind of a background in psychology, so that helps in that regard. Looking at other aspects of lifestyle, stress, sleep, holistic view of health. As we said, we just touched on a tiny bit, how stress and can increase our hunger, increase our cravings. Well, actually, lack of sleep can do that, lack of sleep quality. There's so many different aspects that will affect the calories in and calories out equation that we need to get the stars to align to make sure it's as easy as possible for us to carry out and do long term overall health and happiness as well. Client specific training, as I said, I touched on how a structured plan would be very simply, but what you would normally do is get someone a movement assessment, being able to actually see how they move, and then prescribe particular mobility, flexibility, strength, cardio from that. You cannot just give cookie cutter programs. Stop buying cookie cutter programs on the internet, because I've seen so many people get injured a lot where the program says deadlifts. Well, you haven't qualified that person to be able to deadlift properly. They're not strong enough to deadlift properly. Thus, they're sacrificing burning a few calories, and then they're going to get a disc bulge, or they're going to get a back injury or something very serious that will then stop them from losing fat and getting results. Focus on maximizing fat loss and sustaining that long term. Here's some of the people I've coached. Okay, some nice looking results there. I think that was nearly 20 kilos. Again, when we look at muscle tone, that's exactly what we're doing. This is 19 kilos. Again, way more defined tone. That's the same person. This guy was on. It was on his 50th birthday. The pain got too hard. That's why he came to me. Amy here, we can see the benefit of weight training, even though she's lost such vast amount of fat, and still looking toned and defined, and that's what we want. Maintaining that figure perfectly. I think that was 60 kilos. Emma, we see here, currently over 18 kilos. Um, and she has lost weight before in traditional weight loss programs, and she says now she's more toned than when she was actually weighed less. So she looks better. When she weighed less, she had more stretch marks and stuff because you're not getting that muscle tone to be able to hold the skin in place. Want to learn more? Apply for my coaching services by emailing the word coaching to Sean@livelongperformance.com on how to apply for more information. And again, that's my Instagram handle at the bottom. There you go. My first ever presentation. I really hope that helped give you a little bit more of an insight. It's kind of beginner look at it, but for most people, that's all they need to know starting off. Hope that gives you a little bit more of a bullshit detector in regards to information that you hear, and apply a lot of information. Have a look at your own plan. And if you have any questions or queries, just email that, and we can hopefully help you along. What my goal is to be able to, every person that follows me, I want to be able to help every person achieve results. So there you go. Share to someone who needs to see this. I really hope you enjoyed that. Any reviews were brilliant, and I will talk to you all soon.